Good morning, all. It's Wednesday morning, so go to church tonight. We're in chapter 33 of Isaiah, the prophet. We began this yesterday. Remember, this is a continuation of the promise, warning, blessing, judgment, merry-go-round that Judah is on. It's set a year, 2 years before the Assyrian siege of Jerusalem. But the Assyrians have already taken many outlying areas, especially Lachish, the fortified city on the frontier. Um, and actually, the king, Sennacherib, had taken up his camp there at Lachish so that he can continue his deportation of the northern kingdom, Israel, which his father defeated in 732 BC. And so this is 20 years later, around 714, 713 BC. It's before the siege of Jerusalem, which God kills 185,000 Assyrians. We've been over that extensively. But that's the time period that this is in. And there's a pattern in chapter 33. God pronounces a judgment on the Assyrians and on anyone who would come against Israel. The same fate befell the Babylonians in 586 BC. The same fate will befall the armies of the Antichrist at the end of the Great Tribulation. Soon to come, by the way. But it starts out, it has a pattern that is similar to 32, only it's divided a little bit differently. You have the condemnation and judgment of the oppressors, of the invaders. Then you have an outlining of the faults of Jerusalem and why God is allowing this to happen, or why he's doing it on purpose to them, which in fact he was. And then finally, a promise of blessing that would come by obedience now, and of the ultimate blessing in the peaceable kingdom that Isaiah talks about, the millennial kingdom, the rule of Jesus Christ. Remember, in the last chapter is where it is named again in verse 18, and my people shall dwell in a peaceable habitation. Well, that's never happened for any length of time at all. And so, anyway, that's the pattern of chapter 33. So we'll go back and begin at the first. Verse 1, woe to thee that spoilest, and thou wast not spoiled. In other words, man, it's bad that you pick on people that didn't do you any harm at all. They were no threat to you, yet you go in and stomp on them and rape their women and burn their cities and drink their wine and steal their gold. And then take everybody you didn't kill into slavery. Isn't that fun? Woe to thee that spoilest, and thou wast not spoiled, and dealest treacherously, and they dealt not treacherously with thee. When thou shalt cease to spoil, thou shalt be spoiled. And when thou shalt make an end to deal treacherously, they shall deal treacherously with thee. O Lord, be gracious unto us. We have waited for thee. Be thou our arm every morning, our salvation also in the time of trouble. Oldest song. The Lord is a very present help in time of trouble. At the noise of the tumult, the people fled. At the lifting up of thyself, the nations were scattered. And your spoil shall be gathered like the gathering of the caterpillar, as the running to and fro of locusts shall he run upon them. The Lord is exalted, for he dwelleth on high. He hath filled Zion with judgment and righteousness. And wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, and strength of salvation. The fear of the Lord is his treasure. Now, behold, their valiant ones shall cry without. This is the judgment of Israel. And this is now the judgment of Judah. couple of decades later. Same enemy, facing the same destruction and deportation as the northern kingdom had. They're praying. There are some that are praying. There are some in verse 5 that are exalting the Lord, who dwelleth on high, who fills Zion with judgment and righteousness. He never filled Washington, D.C. with judgment and righteousness. He never filled London, England. Good morning, Chris. He never filled London, England with justice and judgment and righteousness. He never filled Paris, France with judgment and righteousness. He certainly never filled Moscow, Russia with judgment and righteousness. No, where does it say that he fills and filled and will fill and fills now? At least in an overarching sense. Zion. You see, it's a picture of Zion. The time is going to come when everybody who has dealt poorly with her will pay. And there will be righteousness and judgment in Zion. Why? Because the king will reign over the world from the throne of his father David. He shall rule them with a rod of iron, and the law shall go forth from Mount Zion. Not San Francisco, not Caracas, not Quebec City. Zion. Jimmy, are you a Zionist? You cannot be a born-again Christian and not be a Zionist. Now, you can be a born-again Christian and hold the error and heresy of anti-Semitism and the belief that the church has become Israel. But those are all lies of the devil. What it is, what you're saying is that God, if you say God is done with Israel, then you're saying God is a liar and does not keep his promises. Now, far smarter, taller, and better looking men than I have held that position. But that is not what the Bible teaches. Good morning, Adam. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. And the corn is as high as an elephant's eye. It's from the movie Oklahoma. The musical Oklahoma, I mean. I know that all this weird stuff bounces around in my head, but I can't shut off the soundtrack. It's always been there. The circle of life. Somebody put up a Lion King icon. Somebody with a Lion King icon is watching the circle of life. Yes. Mustafa. No, you see, the music never quits in my head. That's why these outbursts come along. I wonder if it's a form of Tourette's, only instead of fidgeting and having tics, I start singing. I mean, I'll be in Walmart, man. I mean, I've been at Walmart and have whistled and people, turn around and look at me like I'm crazy. But there's been a time or two when I broke out in a dance, and just going, I want to live in America. Oh, it's Travis. Travis is the one with the Lion King icon. I never noticed that before, Travis. We love you too. You're a very good and fine man, and you love Jesus. I know you love Jesus, son. The point is that I was making before I started singing is that all the people who believe that the church is replaced Zion, it's called replacement theology. Israel becomes the church. That's not true. Israel is not the church. Israel has never been the church. Israel will never be the church. The church and and Israel are separate entities entirely. Um, but anyway, because that's what the Bible teaches. That's my point. So if you're not a Zionist, you're in disobedience to Christ completely, complete unwillingness to follow the Lord God who has created all things. All of you smart people in the seminaries, read Romans 9 through 11 again, and perhaps you will gain some insight. Now, I have many people who hate me or just think I'm a clown, a loose cannon, among my tribe. But you know what? There's plenty of stories about when the Indian was cast out of his tribe. He went to another tribe and became a mighty warrior. You know, old Crazy Horse, he was a distant cousin of the Lakota Sioux. He was a Southern Cheyenne. And he had a dream and a vision about lightning striking him. And his tribe threw him out because they thought he was crazy. And then one of the chiefs stole his wife. And then some of his friends stole his horses. So he had no wife, no wealth, no nothing. And they run him out on the rail. And he became a great war chief. And it was his band in the United Indian Nations at the Little Bighorn that destroyed Custer on that ridge. Wiped him out. His tribe threw him out too. I'm not scared of getting thrown out by my tribe. I've been thrown out of better places. The Lord is exalted, for he dwelleth on high. He hath filled Zion with judgment and righteousness. And wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times. That hasn't happened yet. And strength of salvation. See, that's still coming to Zion. I've read it to you. They will all, the one, Antichrist is going to kill 2/3 of all the Jews on the face of the earth. There's going to be a third left, a remnant that God will supernaturally protect during the last half of the Great Tribulation, when Christ appears with his garments drenched in blood from the battlefield of Armageddon. When he comes to them, he's going to lead them into Zion. He's going to take them to Israel out of their wilderness fort, their wilderness hiding place. He's going to take them, and when he comes, they're going to say, what are those wounds in your hands? Read Zechariah chapters 12 through 14. What are those wounds in your hands? These are the wounds with which I was wounded in the house of my friends. And they shall weep for him. And they shall mourn for him like you mourned for your only son that you've lost, for your only son. They will know that this supposedly illegitimate son of the carpenter is actually the Son of God, their Messiah, Yeshua, Christ, the King, the one who was predicted, the one who was prophesied to come in all the prophets, from Moses and in the Psalms. It all talks about Jesus. The entire book is about Jesus. And he is the strength of their salvation, and they will be saved. 11:26 Romans, and so all Israel shall be saved. They get saved just like you and I got saved, by believing on Christ. Only they'll see him bloodied from the battle of Armageddon with a hold still in his hands and feet. And they'll say, and they'll know who he is, you see. And they'll come to him, they'll follow him. And that is the beginning of the millennial kingdom, the kingdom of Christ on the earth, the kingdom we pray every day to come, the peaceable kingdom. Charlie Davis. I love you, Charlie. Wouldn't it be nice to live in a peaceable kingdom? That's what we all long for. We want to live in a peaceable kingdom. Okay, verse 7, chapter 33. Behold, their valiant ones cry without. Now he's talking to Israel now that was destroyed by the Assyrians, Samaria in 732 BC. Now he's talking about what's going to happen. He's saying they could be destroyed too, except it doesn't happen. God turns away that army. But in the end, it does happen in 586 by the Babylonians. You go, well, at least it wasn't the Assyrians. No, but it was, you see. Because in 620 BC, somewhere around in there, Babylon destroys Nineveh and completely takes over Assyria. And so all the armies almost that didn't get slaughtered, their generals and their rich people, they went over to the side of the Babylonians. And so there are many Assyrian generals, Assyrian by birth, Assyrian by culture, Assyrian by allegiance, who are in the Babylonian army, the army of the Chaldeans. They're all Chaldeans. They come from the fertile, they come from the land between the rivers, between the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers, Mesopotamia. Behold, their valiant ones shall cry without. Woe is me, we've lost the war. Don't shoot, Sheriff, I'm only a fiddle player. I was just riding with these guys. I didn't have anything to do with the rebellion. They picked me up down the road. They were just taking me. They were going to drop me off at the bus station. No, there won't be any excuses in that day. Behold, their valiant ones shall cry without. Wait a minute, we're all Semites here. Hold your fire. No, that ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. Behold, their valiant ones shall cry without. And the ambassadors of peace shall weep bitterly. This comes true without the actual destruction of Jerusalem in 710 BC. Of course, when the Assyrian army arrives at the walls of Jerusalem, they don't know that God is going to deliver them, so they're scared. We've covered this, but not this particular aspect, and I'm not going to read far in 2 Kings 18, but I just want us to be aware where it says that your ambassadors, your ministers shall tremble. The ambassadors of peace shall tremble. They tried to make peace. Hezekiah tried to make peace with Sennacherib, the king of Assyria. And he sent him a lot of money and booty. Because Hezekiah, as a very young man, saw what the Assyrian army did to the northern kingdom. He saw the destruction of Samaria. He saw the armies of the king killed. He saw the allies of the northern kingdom of Israel destroyed, especially Syria and, believe it or don't, the Philistines. The Philistines started fighting with the Assyrians, and then they started fighting against them because they realized, well, once they take Israel, they'll take us too. And they were right. Only it didn't get done in completeness until 586 BC date, where Nebuchadnezzar came with his great army. But they were all aware in Judah about what the Assyrians had done in Israel and what the Assyrians planned to do. to Judah. Talking about Hezekiah in verse 8 of chapter 18, he smote the Philistines even unto Gaza and the borders thereof, from the tower of the watchman to the fenced city. And it came to pass that in the 4th year of King Hezekiah, which was the 7th year of Hoshea, son of Elah, king of Israel, that Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, that's Sennacherib's daddy, came up against Samaria and besieged it. And at the end of 3 years, they took it, even in the 6th year of Hezekiah. And it was the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Israel. Samaria was taken, the northern kingdom. And the king of Assyria did carry away Israel into Assyria, and put them in Hala and in Habor by the river Gozan, in the cities of the Medes. Those old Medes that always knew how to choose the right side, until the Greeks came along. Because they obeyed not the voice of the Lord their God, but transgressed his covenant and all that Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded, and would not hear them or do them. Now, 8 years later, Assyria is going to start working on Judah in earnest. Now, in the 14th year of King Hezekiah, this is 2 Kings chapter 18. Now, in the 14th year of King Hezekiah, did Sennacherib, king of Assyria, come up against all the fenced cities of Judah and took them. Those are the frontier cities, the border cities, your first line of defense. Well, Lachish was the lead place among those, and Sennacherib's armies took them all, and they actually made Lachish their headquarters. Verse 14. And Hezekiah, king of Judah, sent to the king of Assyria to Lachish, saying, I have offended, return from me. That which thou puttest on me will I bear. And the king of Assyria appointed unto Hezekiah, king of Judah, 300 talents of silver and 30 talents of gold. And Hezekiah gave him all the silver that was found in the house of the Lord and in the treasure of the king's house. And at that time did Hezekiah cut off the gold from the doors of the temple of the Lord, and from the pillars which Hezekiah, king of Judah, had overlaid, and he gave it to the king of Assyria. And then, here we go, just a couple of years later, they come anyway. See, you can't appease a conqueror. You can't give in to a bully. They just keep taking more. Hezekiah sent them all that gold and silver, and then they still come, because in verse 17 it says, the king of Assyria sent Tartan and Rabsaris and Rabshakeh from Lachish. See, they're already occupying Judah territory near the Syrian border at Lachish. So their ambassadors have failed. Verse 7. The ambassadors of peace shall weep bitterly. Oh no, what are we going to do? We gave them all this money. Well, about a year or so before that, Hezekiah decided he wouldn't give any more money, so he started paying the Egyptians. But nobody knew that except the king of Assyria, whose spies were everywhere. Rabshakeh comes, reveals this alliance with Egypt. The ambassadors weep bitterly. While he's out there cussing Jerusalem, cussing their gods, cussing their king. Of course, Hezekiah calls them their gods, but Rabshakeh, the Assyrian, calls the Judah's gods their gods, but Judah had only one God. At least their king did, and that was the God of Israel, the Holy One of Israel, the God of hosts, the God of Sabaoth, the God of battle. And he had one God. We know him as Jesus Christ. He is revealed to us through the Son, the only begotten of the Father, the Lord Jesus Christ. So, after telling the people on the wall that he's going to kill them all, You know, Rabshakeh's out there outside the gates. Well, some of those ambassadors of peace, you know, they're up on the wall. The same geniuses that had tried to buy off Assyria, the same geniuses who had made the uh, ill-fated arrangement with the Egyptians. In verse 26 of chapter 18 of 2 Kings, then Eliakim, the son of Hilkiah, these are the ambassadors, and Shebna and Joah under Rabshakeh, speak, I pray thee, to thy servants in the Syrian language. For we understand it, and talk not to us in the Jews' language in the ears of the people that are on the wall. They didn't want the people to hear all these threats. These are the geniuses. These are the brain trust of Hezekiah. Oh Lord, Eliakim does turn out to be very profitable to Hezekiah later. But Rabshakeh said unto them, hath my master sent me to speak to thy master, and to thee to speak these words? Hath he not sent me to the men which sit upon the wall, that they may eat their own dung and drink their own piss with you? And they just laughed. You know, the ambassadors were embarrassed. And Rabshakeh rages some more outside the gate. And he concludes his damnable oration with verse 35. He said, who are they among all the gods of the countries that have delivered their country out of mine hand, that the Lord should deliver Jerusalem out of my hand? Now look at this, verse 36. But the people held their peace and answered him not a word, for the king's commandment was saying, answer him not. Then came Eliakim, the son of Hilkiah, which was over the household, and Shebna the scribe, and Joah the son of Asaph, the recorder, to Hezekiah with their clothes rent, and told him the words of Rabshakeh. These are these great ambassadors. They're ambassadors of peace. Gentlemen may cry, peace, peace, but there is no peace. The one that Patrick Henry and they give me liberty or give me potatoes. I think that too many were satisfied with potatoes. No, he said, give me liberty or give me Coca-Cola. Was that it? He was such a fine man, Patrick Henry. Give me liberty or give me death. You see, we're living in the same age as these, a new modern age of these valiant ones crying without, and the ambassadors of peace weeping bitterly. You know, they think they got to deal with Putin. They don't have to deal with Putin. Putin thinks he's the czar. Europe thinks they got a deal that's going to protect Ukraine. They don't have a deal to protect Ukraine. All of these ambassadors, they're all spinning their wheels, because I tell you what, the only thing that Russia understands is a spiked fist shoved down their throat. That's what Russia understands. According to some reports, Putin's lost over 1 million men since 2022 when he invaded Ukraine. You think he's going to stop just because a bunch of guys in suits want him to? If you believe that, you have no understanding of human nature. I would love to be wrong, and God may put his hook in Putin's mouth and pull him back, just like he could do it at any time, and we need to pray for that. But as long as he's got China and India and Iran dealing with him on the sly, he is not going to back down. Now you can say, Jimmy, you don't know what you're talking about. People say that all the time, but it always turns out what the way I said it would. Why? Because I observe. I watch, I look, and I don't believe anything anybody says except God. I listen to him and I read him every day, and he talks to me through this, and he talks to me in my prayer time. This is the fruit of the ambassadors. Jennifer, God bless you. Paul is applying this directly to the timing of the rapture, when it might come. He says, but, verse 5, no, chapter 5, verse 1 of 1 Thessalonians. Oh, Jennifer, you're not late. I was late too. The good thing about Facebook is that you can watch it during the day anytime you have the opportunity to watch. It's on there all day long. And even if you miss one, I put it on YouTube. So far as I know, they're all archived back when I started, back during the plague. Chapter 5 of 1 Thessalonians, verse 1, but of the times and the seasons, brethren. Now he's speaking specifically of the rapture, but you can apply this to a lot of things, something that you know is going to come or you expect to come. But of the times and the seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you, for yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. Come when we least expect it. That's why all the people that say he's going to come on September 23rd, that's a big deal now. Because I think that's Rosh Hashanah or something, I can't remember. But he's supposed to come on the 23rd. And I promise you that he's not coming on the 23rd. How do I know that? Because somebody said he was coming on the 23rd. Anytime somebody says he's going to come at a certain time on a certain day, he don't come. Every time. There are no exceptions. He will not come on the 23rd. Do not listen to the phony baloney people on YouTube and TV. They'll want you to buy their book about it. They'll want you to buy a DVD about it. They'll want you to send them hundreds of dollars so they continue the ministry. If you want to give them your money, go ahead, but what they're teaching is not of the Lord Jesus Christ. It is not from God, because it does not agree with what is taught here in this book. But of the times and seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you. And there you go, Jennifer. I used to have a saying back when TV was king and the internet was new. I said, if you see it on, I said, if you read it in a book, it might be true. If you see it on TV, or oh, how was it? Yeah, this is what it was. It was kind of, because most of the teaching programs were on the radio back then, going back 40 years. It says if you if you read it in a book, it might be true. If you hear it on the radio, it could possibly be true. If you see it on TV, it ain't true. That's how the media is. Don't believe it, the things that you see, until you can confirm them. And now with AI, you really can't believe the things you see unless you're seeing them in person. And pretty soon, you won't even be able to trust that because of hologram technology. But of the times and the seasons, brethren, you have no need that I write unto you. For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. That is what happens with the ambassadors of peace, and they're weeping bitterly. The strong and the rich, the mighty men, the warriors, the funders of the warriors, the governments, they cry without, oh, woe is me, what's going to happen? And the ambassadors of peace shall weep bitterly. And they're all the ones who try to make things happen. for the good of their country. Verse 8, the highways lie waste, the wayfaring man ceaseth. Why are the highways waste? Nobody's going anywhere. There's no commerce. There's no traffic. There's no way to go. There's nowhere to go. One place you go to is not any better than the place you are right now. God bless you, Jennifer, and your mother. The highways lie waste. The wayfaring man ceaseth. Why? Because one place is as good as another. You know, when your country is destroyed, it doesn't do you any good to go someplace else. You know, during the Great Depression, you know, a large percentage of the middle of the country wound up out in California and Oregon and Washington. It didn't do them any good because things were just as bad there when they got there, and they put them in labor camps that weren't any much better than concentration camps, treated them as second-class citizens, the Okies. Watch The Grapes of Wrath, the movie with Henry Fonda. Read The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck, where they treated our people like pigs just because we had the audacity to be poor. It ain't that much different now. Only we're poor at a higher level. We're poor at a higher level now. I was telling Velda yesterday, I said, well, we got money coming in, money going out, but we're essentially broke. And I'm sure that I look all right, but you know, I'm wearing a $15 shirt and a tie that somebody gave to me, so I look okay. We're just poor on a higher level. That's what it is. Now you're right, Jennifer. But in the good sense, you can be poor in spirit, as in the Sermon on the Mount, which means that you're not haughty and you're brokenhearted and you have a poor and a contrite heart. A broken and a contrite heart thou wilt not reject, thou wilt not despise, Lord, if we have a broken and contrite heart. He is the God for the brokenhearted. He came to heal the brokenhearted. He came to bind up that which was broken. He came to heal the wounded. He came to set the captives free. Jesus said, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. He's speaking to people whose spirit and their lives have been trampled on so much by an uncaring world that he's offering them peace. You're poor in spirit. You don't have anything to crow about. You're poor on a low level or a high level. Or is your spirit poor? Is it broken down? So, well, come unto me, all ye who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Learn of me. And of course, the ultimate command to the poor, at whatever stage your poverty is. I know guys that are leasing a Lexus, but they have to check with their wife before they buy lunch. Our lives seem to be tied up in things and properties and material goods. Of course, you'll always find us who don't have very many material goods griping about material goods. And I wonder if I was rich, if I would feel the same way. But I think that the Lord has made me poor Either it was that or the deacons. I can't remember. Excuse me. But I believe that the Lord has actually blessed my poverty in the sense that if you look at a balance sheet, I got nothing. But money keeps coming in, money keeps going out. We keep eating, we keep living. And I think He does that so that I will not trust the arm of flesh, that I won't trust in my own efforts, that I won't trust in anything but His provision. And as long as I do that, I seem to, Velda and I seem to get along pretty well. The highways lie waste, verse 8, chapter 33. The wayfaring man ceaseth. He hath broken the covenant. He hath despised the cities. He regardeth no man. He's talking about the invader that comes and the plight of the poor people who are left in the wake of the invader, the attackers. In verse 9, the earth mourneth and languisheth. Now, this is specific because it happens only partially at the destruction of Israel, in captivity of Israel. It happens even less with the Assyrian oppression in 712 to 710 BC, where Jerusalem nearly fell, except that God killed 185,000 Assyrians in that army. But it did have a complete fulfillment, a overarching fulfillment in the Babylonian wars, where they finally conquered the entire Levant and the entire Middle East on their way down into Egypt, where they conquer Egypt. Now they conquer Imperial Egypt, the imperial armies at Carchemish in 605. But in 585, 584, 583, they went on down into Egypt and finished the destruction of the Egyptian army, and took all their gold and silver and everything, and destroyed many of their cities. And Egypt did not rise again until around the late 300s BC, under the Greeks, specifically under Ptolemy, one of Alexander's 4 generals, among whom he divided his kingdom, his empire. So the largest fulfillment of this was in the Babylonian and Chaldean wars. And it says in verse 9, the earth mourneth and languisheth. Lebanon is ashamed and hewn down. See, Nebuchadnezzar took all of Lebanon, what is Lebanon now, and southern Israel and Philistia, all of that coast, that Mediterranean coast, all the way up into Turkey. He took all that to have landing spaces. He was sailing navies into that. He was building boats in the former Hittite and Assyrian empires in what is modern day southern Turkey, all up in there. And he was building ships, and then he was marching soldiers across what is Turkey, and he was landing invasion amphibious landings on the Mediterranean into Jerusalem. I mean, toward, landing the armies on the Mediterranean coast and marching toward Jerusalem. Amazing. Actually landed those ships where Tel Aviv is now, and where Caesarea Philippi, which did not exist as a city then, where it is. They were landing ships to go through the conquered territory of Israel, to go down into Judah from the northeast and northwest, and from the west, from the sea. The earth mourneth and languisheth. Lebanon is ashamed and hewn down. Sharon is like a wilderness. Bashan and Carmel shake off their fruits. Those are all ancient Israeli cities. the earth mourneth. But now we're going to talk tomorrow about God rising up and being exalted again. The judgment has passed, or is passing, and then the blessing comes because he wants to bless his people. God love you. It's a beautiful day. Get out and enjoy it. I understand that the rains are coming back tonight. We really need the rain. We really need the rain. That's right, Travis. The clock is ticking. God bless you all.